I mean, it was hard, and I felt like there was no light at the end of the tunnel, to be honest with you, just because my divorce was very difficult. Hers, not so much. But through that whole time, I mean, obviously, divorce, there's uh, attorney fees, there's how things get split up, and all these other things that happen with it, right? Before, when we were doing 50 transactions a year, when the market went from its peak to where the lowest it had been since 2008 in a matter of 6 months, that's a hell of an adjustment. And when you still
Welcome to the Growth Drivers Podcast, the show where we break down the leadership frameworks, mindset shifts, and strategies that fuel entrepreneurial success, personal transformation, and business breakthroughs.
I'm Rachael Novak.
And I'm Mike Novak.
Let's dive in and start driving your growth.
All right, so today we've got a very special podcast for you guys. We've got our two good friends, Cory and Jessica, in town, up from a little bit down south here in Washington State. They are agent friends of ours that are real with us and got to know them really well. We had a workout this morning, of course. Cory and I did backs. Rachael pulverized Jessica on legs. So
legs for the ladies too.
of course, we started in the gym, but we've gravitated into the podcast studio at this point. And today we want to talk about Cory and Jessica's story. Like, if you have been through chaos, or if you're going through chaos right now, and you feel like it's never going to end, life is never going to get back to normal, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel, I think you're going to want to hear their story because it's absolutely inspiring. And it's going to change your mindset, I think. We can all relate, I think, to setbacks. We've been through huge setbacks. We lost $7 million in 2008, like literally 3 months after getting married. We were pregnant with our first kid, had to bounce back from that, lost our restaurants in 2016. So we have been there, and just in different forms, And so to me, it's not a question of, are you going to go through chaos in your life? It's merely a matter of when, and when you do, how are you going to handle it?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Starting over from nothing, right?
Yeah, no, 1,000%. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, it will happen at some point. If it hasn't hit you yet, it will. You won't know what's coming most of the time, but yeah, it will happen.
Yeah. So let's back up. I think it's been 3 years since we've been partnered together.
Yeah.
What happened, and what kind of chaos did that infuse into your life?
Sure. I mean, yeah, 3 years ago, it's 3 years. It's been a ride. I mean, 3 years ago, we were at a kind of a smaller mom and pop brokerage. We just had gotten licensed. So Jess was a little bit earlier before me, I guess. Jumped in. She was doing 25 to 50 deals a year. I jumped in. I was doing 50 deals on my second year, and I was just crazy busy with real estate, and it was an awesome opportunity for us.
You guys are cranking.
We were cranking, yeah.
I forgot you actually came to our office the first time as the leader of this other organization.
I
totally forgot that was
right?
Yeah. And I mean, just kind of going
What was
through
that,
it.
2018?
2018.
Maybe?
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, halfway through 2018, I think. Yeah. But yeah, no, it came up because I was stepping more into a leadership role at that brokerage. And I mean, my background was a little bit more in retail management, so people and business and that kind of stuff. So a little bit different side of the real estate. But a little bit shortly after that, I ended up going through a divorce. Jess ended up going through a divorce at the same time. And the brokerage we're at, it wasn't a great fit. And that's when we said, all right, if we're going to do this, let's do it. So we jumped off, started our own journey. That's when we Williams Ave real estate. That's how that came to be. It was with Jess and I. And that was like right at the peak. So 2021, 2022, when the market was at the very, very top, that's exactly when we jumped off.
It seemed really safe.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's pause there for just a minute. So you had massive business changes, but also massive personal changes. So not just one of you, but both of you guys.
Both of us. Yeah. And I mean, anyone you talk to is like, if you're going through a divorce, you need to wait 2 years before you do anything. Like, you figure yourself out, figure that out. And we're like, well, fuck that. Like, divorce, new business, new journey, like new everything is we took it on.
We blew everything up, but we stood by the crater, watched it all, and we're like, all right, here we go. Like,
what gave you guys the conviction just to say, hey, you know what? We know that on the other side of this is something far better than where we're at right now.
Honestly, like for me, it was, I I know what can come of it. I know what buckling down and betting on yourself and putting all the chips in on yourself will do, as long as you stay committed to it. And that's what we did.
Yeah, I mean, you were more ready than I was, and that's no surprise. That's pretty typical. He's the risk taker, but we knew that where we were limited. There was a ceiling, and we weren't really, I don't think, reaching our potential and doing what we knew we could do if we were doing it for ourselves and trying to build something bigger than where we were at. And it was April, 2022, market changed, and it was May that we decided, okay, we'll give this a shot on our own. So terrible time, but maybe also in hindsight, the best time. Yeah.
Yeah. So a total rebuild on the business. But let's talk about the divorce side of things. Half of marriages end up in divorce. Like, it's super common.
Yeah.
A lot of guys, like I'm in the Savage mastermind, and divorce is very common in that group. A lot of guys they'll suffer in silence, and I'm sure women do this too, but obviously I'm not connected to that as much. And they won't just say like enough is enough. So how did you know, like, hey, this is the end for me, and I'm going to leave behind what I've created with this person?
It was a bad environment. A lot of times with marriages, like, you kind of grow apart, then you come back together, and that's kind of, one of these where you kind of bounce apart and come together, and we kind of just bounced apart, and we just kept going from
further and further and wide. Yeah.
And so many marriages will stay together for the kids. I mean, I've got 3 kids, Jess has 3 kids, and honestly, I think that is a terrible reason to stay together. Because with children and your kids, obviously, they need the best version of you. And when you're just doing it for them, and you're in a terrible relationship that they're growing and they're seeing that interaction with every single day, it's not the best environment for them. And ultimately, that was my kind of nail of like the final decision was they needed the best version of their mom, and they needed the best version of their dad, and that wasn't going to happen with both of us together.
I think that's such an incredible point, Cory, because I think, like you said, there are so many people, or you said, there are so many people that suffer in silence and stay together for the kids. And the kids can feel that energy.
Yeah, they know what's going on.
Like, they're not dumb, right? They pick up on that stuff. So to say that, like, no, we're going to choose the best version of ourselves for our kids, it's like there's going to be a half of the population that goes like, that's so selfish to have done that. You know what I mean? And like, how dare you break up your family, when it's like the other side is like, actually, I'm following my path and my happiness and being the better version of me for my kids, living the example of what I want them to live as well. Not the divorce, but the better version of you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Was it that same thing for you, Jessica?
Mine was a little different. My previous marriage was not toxic. There was nothing, awful about it. And it was, we got married at 23, so very young. And going through COVID, my parents actually separated after 34 years of marriage.
Oh.
And watching them, and they'd always just kind of been together but lived very separate lives. And I had this epiphany of, oh my God, I don't want to get to a point 30 years down the road where it's fine. We're fine. We get along fine. We co-parent fine, but there's nothing more than that. And same thing, like, is this the example of an amazing relationship and marriage that I want my kids to grow up seeing? And, it was one of those conversations Max and I had as we were going through it is, he was somebody who was going to go to the same job for the next 30 years and do the same thing every day. And that was enough for him. And that was so good. And he was so content. And I think that's amazing for somebody who that's where they're at. Me, that's not me. I want to grow. I want more. And we just were not on the same path. So having some of those realizations and just realizing, we're great parents to these kids. And yeah, we make a decent team, but that's not what marriage is about. Having a conversation with my now 17-year-old about 6 months after Cory and I started dating. And I'm like, it's been a hell of a year for you. He ended middle school, went into high school, going through a divorce. We moved, like, there's so much happening. And I said, how has this been for you? It's like, Mom, it's so different seeing you now happy, and the difference in just our family dynamic had completely changed. And like I said, there was nothing wrong before. There weren't awful fights, but it was a completely different environment.
You weren't as alive.
Exactly.
Yeah. So good enough was not good enough.
Yeah, 100%. Why settle for
Ooh, I'm getting goosebumps. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
So for the people that are like stuck in those marriages, like what would your guidance be to them? Obviously you try to work it out, right?
Yeah.
And then at some point you just realize it's not going to happen, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you have to be all in and committed on each other, and you got to fix it. And so many times where there's pride and there's hurtfulness, they kind of just gets in the way, and so many people can't overcome that. They get stuck up on a lot of it, and it just, having to move forward with, a full intention of trying to make things better and doing something 100% for that other person without necessarily expecting anything in return. But it's got to be reciprocated on both sides. And, that I think that's the biggest struggle with, when relationships get into tough spots is there's so many hurt feelings and there's so many like grudges that kind of get held on to. And, that's the person you're doing life with. And it's easy to take that kind of stuff out on the other person just because they're there and they're the closest person to you. But I think both people have to move forward with full intention of wanting nothing but the best. And if both can't do that and their, goals and their visions and lifestyle and all that kind of stuff isn't aligned, it's very difficult to do.
Yeah. So you guys launched Williams Ave Real Estate.
Yeah.
And you're both getting divorced at the same time.
Yeah.
So that was 2022, right?
Yes.
So how did that year end up shaping up for you guys?
That was a hell of a year.
Yeah.
Did it feel like it would never end? Like this was just the new norm, or what did that feel like?
It was hard, and it felt like there was no light at the end of the tunnel, to be honest with you, just because my divorce was very difficult. Hers, not so much. But through that whole time, obviously in divorce, there's attorney fees, there's, how things get split up and all these other things that happen with it, right? My scenario was completely starting over. Jess was, pretty close to that, and I was obviously right when the market had shifted as well. So before, when we were doing 50 transactions a year, when the market, went from its peak to where the lowest it had been since 2008 in a matter of 6 months, that's a hell of an adjustment. And when you're just doing 50 deals a year, and then all of a sudden you're doing 5.
Right.
And that's a hell of an adjustment to get used to.
What did we do that first year with Williams Ave? Was it like
It was like
11?
11 deals, all I say.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, and there was some I don't want to throw the other brokerage under the bus, but
There's
they made your
animosity,
life
I think,
very
yeah.
difficult the first year, before they came to terms with what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it seemed, just from a distance, like it was unreasonably harsh on you guys,
Yeah.
It felt like we were fighting everybody at
Yeah.
some point in
Backs
time.
against the wall. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it wasn't just, stepping out of that brokerage, and there was a lot of hurt feelings with that, going through divorces and blowing up our sphere, right? Because there's, friends choose sides, there's choose sides, and that's just naturally how people are.
Yeah.
So it was legit starting from ground zero, from scratch, not necessarily starting over, but starting under is what, it was what it felt
Totally.
like
It's
at
the bottom of the
time.
pit.
Yeah. And you're sitting having to, clean your way and climb out of this, the hole that you're in. And that first year was tough. It was super, super difficult. There was, points at times where we had to go to the store and choose, are we buying dog food to feed our dogs, or are we buying food to feed our kids?
Mm-hmm.
Because we couldn't do both. And that was a
We always
hell
made
of
it
an
work
adjustment to make.
somehow, but
Did the dog go hungry?
damn.
They need to go on a weight loss.
I lick my plate every now and then.
Oh, we can definitely relate to that. I think it was 2009 when, we were coming out of the recession, and Rachael had to return gifts from our child's birthday for food.
The baby shower.
Yeah, the
Before
baby
we had a
shower.
baby, yeah.
Like, that's pretty low.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
You know,
literally like going to Walmart, like cashing in like baby stuff and baby swings and baby gifts for
Yeah.
gift cards
Just
to
to
go
eat.
get meat.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
Yeah. I had to sell my car to pay rent. We went down to one car.
That's right. I remember you.
Huh?
Yeah, we went down to one car.
For a year.
I borrowed her parents' Prius so I could go
Can you
DoorDash.
imagine this man in
Oh
a
my
Prius?
God.
You're a DoorDash
I
at the
would
same time.
DoorDash. Yeah.
Wow.
I would do real estate all day. I'd, make calls and, do all the shits from 9 to 5 for the most part. And after that, like around dinner time, I would, put my phone down and I would go deliver food. Had the DoorDash bag. I'd buckle it up in the passenger seat.
I bet you were like
Go
the best
DoorDash.
DoorDash guy
Oh,
because
I
you have
killed
such a good
that.
attention.
I was, for sure.
It says 3 Taco Bell hot sauces, not 4.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I would get arrive at the place and I'm like, hey, they're still taking forever. I don't know what their problem is, but I'm here. It's not me. It is the place.
Setting expectations.
I put my foot up their ass to get your food ready. Don't worry, like it's coming.
But like what a testament to the dedication of like, we'll make it through this no matter what.
We
right?
have to. We don't have another choice.
I mean, Mike and I, we literally had that conversation in 2009 because the only thing that we kept through the business bankruptcy was like this non-profitable little hole-in-the-wall restaurant that we had. And we ended up turning that into something. But like at one point we were like, I mean, shit, we could go work at McDonald's. Like we'll do whatever we need to do to get through this season. Right. Like there isn't an option other than to go through it.
Exactly.
Well, at the same time, I was working graveyard at Bigfoot.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
So I would go to work at 10 o'clock. I'd get home at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. Some mornings he would force me to sleep until 8, but most of the time I wanted to get up and get my kids on the bus. So we were...
You were doing whatever it takes.
Yeah, we had to. We didn't have any other choice.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I didn't know the DoorDash thing, man. That's impressive.
Well,
Like,
that is. That's
I'm sure
incredible, you guys.
that requires a massive amount of humility to just say, hey, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
And this is what I got to do.
I even thought about like putting business cards. Like,
I think I was like, let's not.
It says going at the door. I'm not going to door knock anything.
Yeah, for sure. Go and door knock the neighborhood all waiting for an order. But yeah, no, that was it. That was one of those times where it's like you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you're just your head's down, you're focused, you're trying to just make it day by day. It seems like, and it just does not feel like it's going to end. But we were all in on what we wanted and what we wanted to do and our vision, and we did whatever we had to make it happen.
It can be so hard to have perspective when you're in the middle of chaos like that. You know what I mean? We just did a podcast earlier this week about our lessons from bodybuilding prep, right? And we have both experienced times during the prep where we're like, this is miserable and this sucks. And you can't really see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, it's eventually going to come, but it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah.
And then when you get past it, you kind of look back and you realize, hey, that trial that I went through actually allowed me to transform into this new person, right? Like it allowed me to grow. And like the growth didn't actually happen at the outcome. It happened at that point of chaos.
100%. Yeah.
So, okay. So you guys sold a couple handfuls of houses in 2022.
Yeah.
And then 2023 came along and you guys started growing a little bit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, we continued to buckle down and almost revert back to like old school stuff. Obviously we were, we couldn't afford leads. Like we couldn't afford to buy leads and, all that kind of stuff. So everything we had to do was really just to fight for business and to earn it and to, boots on the ground and all this other stuff. And when close to right when we started Williams, a little bit after, was like 6 months, we got an office space just because we knew that was something we had wanted and there was a great spot for it.
It was marketing we couldn't even pay for it. A spot right on Main Street that was, a tiny space, but $1,200 a month. Like we paid more for exposure, just to get, some signage there. And it ended up, there have been times where, again, that's been a hard bill to swallow. It's by far our biggest one, but that was a huge deal for especially getting involved in the community.
I was going to say, you've been integrating into the community so much with that space. Yeah.
Well, so September, October, is that when Tara joined us?
Yep.
We had our first team member join us, which again, I feel like none of this we were really ready for. We just kind of kept going.
You guys started building a team really quick. I was like shocked how fast you guys.
Yep.
So started building off of that and things just kind of progressing. I'm not sure that there was ever a point where we're like, oh, okay, it's actually working. We just had our heads down and just, kept going.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, what was the conversation like, at night when you were actually like spending 5 or 10 minutes together and not working great?
You guys just like, this sucks.
Yeah. What was the conversation like to be like, we're still in this, like we're still doing real estate, even though this sucks, even though we're not making a ton of money? Like what kept you going? Because look at the market we're in right now, and there's agents dropping like flies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you guys were in the middle of a bunch of shit personally and professionally. Like what kept you going during that?
It was just never an option to not keep going, to be honest. Like we were all in on this. We didn't have a plan B. We were going to do it. We were going to make it, and it wasn't going to be pretty. But I don't think there was ever a discussion of, okay, what's our backup plan? We didn't have one.
That's a really big thing. We have a lot of conversations with agents, and sometimes they'll be like telling us about what their plan B is. And to us, when you have a plan B, you've already failed. Like
Yeah,
you've already got
you're
one
already
foot
out.
out the door,
Mhm.
and you know this isn't going to be successful for you. Like you might as well just stop now. So that I could completely relate to that mindset that this is all in. That's how we were when we got into real estate too. It's like, hey, no matter what, this is what we're doing. We're going to find a way to make it work.
Well, and if
Yeah.
it doesn't, like, we're gonna go down.
Yeah.
Screaming flights,
We'll have
right?
flames.
100%. Yeah.
Wasn't an option. And hindsight, looking back that first year, we did 11 deals, and that was hard, obviously, on our pocketbooks and really our mentality coming from being so insanely busy.
Mhm.
Brokerage we were at previously. And we looked, and had we stayed where we were at, we would have gone bankrupt with the difference. So hindsight, yes, it was hard, but we chose a very different hard than I think we would have been.
Just purely from the market shift.
Market shift
Market
and what we
shift
were getting
and-
paid.
Yeah.
And the
Splits.
splits.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
mean,
the splits were
We
paying out
turned
of
the
the
split on our
brokerage.
head. What were we
Yeah.
making? 26% of our
Mhm.
commissions. So,
So great with 50 deals, not so great with 11.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I mean,
Well, and they
joining Real
did-
changed things
Yeah.
night and day for us.
Real's good.
Whenever we joined Real was hugely beneficial for us in our business at the time, and more so than I realized it was going to be.
What was your thought process on coming to Real? Because it was still like, I mean, I don't want to say it was like ground floor, but it kind of was. I
It's
think we had less than 5,000.
Yeah,
agents
it was
at
I
that
think
point.
there was
4,000
like
and-
3.
Yeah, 3,000 or 4,000
Yeah.
agents we do.
So, I mean, that was a risk to take, but what was going through your mind? You guys said, hey, we're already risking all these other things. Let's do this too.
Yeah.
Instead, because like for people that don't know, you guys live in a small town.
Yeah.
And there's probably some like, main brokerages there that
Yep.
own a lot of that market share.
Well, and there are people
Yeah.
that have like born, raised there, like they
Yeah.
have the market.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, the biggest, like, whenever we left our other brokerage, there was a couple that I've always kind of like had my eye on, like, as if anything were ever to change. I always
You guys
liked,
come to Real.
yeah, I always liked EXP. I like the model of EXP just in regards to, rev shares, some of the like the split options, but I hated the culture.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there would be so many times where I showed a house and some guy was with an EXP agent and never introduced himself. He's like, "Hey, want to join EXP?" Like, bro, like I don't even know your name. Like, can
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck off. Yeah.
and I was like,
No.
I can't,
Yeah.
I cannot do it. I can't bring myself to do it. And then, you guys joined Real. Eric joined Real roughly about the same time. That was right when we were making the jump. And I'm like, all right, it feels right. Like, I, looked into everything. Obviously, you guys were a big influence in it, and just in regards to knowing who you are and is, professionally and personally. And that's something you guys signed off on. And obviously, I did my research on it and get Jess to buy in with it as well. And
So I think we should start
Do it.
Real. I'm like, all right.
Hard sell.
But
For the ride at this point.
In retrospect, you feel like it was a good move.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, honestly, one of the best business decisions we could have done.
It's an amazing model, and they've managed to take the economics of EXP, but blend it with like a really like high level culture that feels authentic,
Yeah,
where like selling houses is still the main thing versus recruiting other agents.
exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
So obviously rev share is a real thing, but it's not the main business.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a professional recruiter.
Right.
I'm
Yeah,
just
Me
a-
neither,
exactly.
you know?
Yeah, like,
Exactly.
right?
We have hundreds of people at Real with us, and I don't ever reach out to people about Real. That's just not how our company does it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
Well, and like you said, the culture has just been amazing. Coming from a place where we had ingrained into our heads, everybody out there is competition. You don't talk to those people. And coming to a place where collaboration is truly at the base of everything, it's been so refreshing and really kind of
Yeah.
brought back my just excitement to work with other people.
Yeah.
And it night and day.
Yeah.
we love
Night
that
and day
part of it
difference.
too. Just the
Yeah.
collaboration with their
Yeah.
agents is amazing because we're all business partners.
Yeah,
we all want each
exactly.
other to win. We're all incentivized to help each other win. So it's
Mhm.
pretty cool.
Well, we're going to work with the agent across the table 10 times over our
Exactly.
career before we're going to work with the same, clients.
Exactly.
It's so important to build those relationships.
Yeah.
100%.
So 2023, did that feel like an easier year than 2022, or was it still kind of really in the chaos?
It was still in the chaos. It was still really hard.
Personally, professionally.
Yeah,
Amen.
financially, like it was still a very difficult year, but we were doing better. And the business started to grow a little bit, but it wasn't really until last year, 2024, is where we really kind of started to take that turn.
We doubled though.
We did.
23, 11.
That,
Yeah.
well,
We
that's
we
a big
doubled.
deal. Yeah.
We had a
Right.
100%
That's
increase.
100% growth.
1 to 2. No, we doubled our business. And everything at that point, it was just back into the business. Like, how do we like continue to grow, put it back in marketing, being part of the community? Like, so it wasn't necessarily better financially because we were still so much focused on the growth mindset. And obviously, we have our own bills and expenses and stuff we have to take care of and focus on, but we just poured everything back into the business from a growth perspective. Okay, like how can we take it to the next level? How can we get in front of more eyeballs? How can we be part of the community? How can we give back more? And that's always been a big focus of. We haven't sat down and added up how many thousands of dollars we've poured back into our community, but like that was always been a big focus we wanted to do. And even when we really couldn't afford it, we've found ways to do it.
Yeah, the bagged groceries thing you guys did, I thought was really cool.
The food drives.
Yeah.
That was really awesome.
Yeah, thanks. And that's all her idea of, hey, how can we pour back into the community without necessarily spending money to it?
Yeah.
How can we just like take that initiative and that leadership perspective? So went over to QFC, we got them to donate 1,000 bags. We took flyers and printed off flyers and stapled them, had a little assembly line. And then we took the team and the kids and we went around to the almost 1,000 houses and dropped off a grocery bag and said, all right, we're going to come back in 5 days and pick it up. It was right before Thanksgiving. So doing a food drive for it. And 5 carloads, 6 carloads full of food in 2,000.
That's amazing.
Like
Super
stocked
cool.
the food bank of the community, which is
Favorite.
It was over the winter season too, wasn't it?
it's right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
November.
good timing.
Yeah.
Which on the food bank's like, well, Easter is also,
Yeah.
I'm
Like, we like you
all
guys.
right.
Yeah.
Let's put into the Easter egg hunt.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of stuff that people are like, oh, you guys are the ones that do the food drive. And we're like, yes, this is so cool. Like,
Yeah.
people look forward to it. Where's my bag?
That's awesome.
So
To create that level of anticipation is so cool.
Yeah.
in 2024, you said you grew a lot. What do you think were the main drivers of that growth?
It was the consistency.
Mhm.
It's the shit that you don't want to do, that you don't see a return on for 6 months to a year, that you can sit down and have that delayed gratification, but you consistently do it over and over and over and over again.
It's everything we were doing 2022, 2023 that finally we're like, holy shit, it actually works.
It's consistency is the
Thank God.
single most underrated thing in business. It really is, or in anything really, like in bodybuilding, whatever.
Yeah.
People massively underestimate the impact of time and consistency.
Yeah.
Time times consistency is really results.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. Yeah, there's so many agents who are like, I held an open house for 4 hours and nobody came by. I'm quitting. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, and so many people have that mindset where they can't have the delayed gratification. They don't understand that what you're doing today isn't going to pay out for 6 to 12 months down the road most of the time.
yeah.
I got a call from an open house that I did where one guy came through and it was 8-10 months after I did that open house. He's like, hey, I came through your open house. I'm like, when? I haven't done one recently. And he was like, oh, it was last year sometime, but my parents and I are moving up. So I need you to help me buy a house. I need you to help them buy a house. Like there's, so many things that you don't know necessarily what the payout is for sure going to be. But if you don't do it, you won't see it. And if you can't do it consistently over and over and over and over again without that delayed gratification, you'll never make it.
Yeah.
It's almost like everyone looks for the shortcut, the quick, instant, easy win. And the consistency over the longer period of time is the shortcut because like nothing else really works. Right?
Exactly.
Do you think that that's probably why the 87% statistic is out there and agents not making it?
That's a huge piece of it, but also the price of admission is super low.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big piece of it too. I mean, 90 hours and 2 tests, like, it's not like you're going out and getting your doctor's degree where you have to spend thousands of dollars on school and years and years and years of education. It's a super low price of admission and people
I
want that
think
quick, instant.
We make it look easy,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Everybody looks and they're like, oh, that looks easy. My son had his friend over the other night for dinner and we're all sitting at the table. And he's like, you guys do real estate, right? And we're like, yeah. And he goes, oh, that's right. Yeah, my mom did real estate for a minute, but she doesn't have her license anymore. I was like, oh, why not? And he goes, she said it was hard. And I'm like, yes, there's so many people that will go through the process, get into this business and go, wait a second, this isn't what I signed up for. And
Yes.
this isn't what I was expecting. And a lot of us who got licensed in the 2017, 2018, 2019, and that's the market we were used to, this has been a mind fuck.
And now it's
a
really
lot.
tough.
Totally.
It's gone from a really easy market to a really tough market.
Wow.
Like we're not even in the middle. We're on the far extreme, the other side. And so, yeah, it's interesting you bring that point up because I always use the analogy, Jessica, of watching Michael Jordan do free throws, right? Like it looks really,
makes
really
it
easy.
Yeah.
You know, even with
I like
thousands of people like waving these stupid things at him,
Yeah.
he still just is in the zone and makes those shots more often than not. So you inherently think, hey, if it's easy for him, it's gonna be easy for me.
Yeah.
But you don't realize that he's practiced this for like, 100,000 reps before he's taking this one
Yeah.
shot.
Yeah.
So again, back to consistency.
Yeah, it's the same thing as going to the gym. Like you go to the gym once and you look in the mirror and you don't see a phone. You're like, I don't even go.
Exactly. So 2024, then a lot more success, and now 2025, where are you guys at?
So 2024, a lot more success. We did 34 transactions. Again, not a crazy number. About 400,000 GCI, just, somewhere around there. So again, nothing necessarily to write home about, but
So far
You're
this
proud.
year, we're
again, kind of like a doubling every other year. So far for this year, we're almost at 30 transactions for the year, halfway through.
That's
Wow.
incredible.
And
Nice job.
we surpassed last year's GCI.
Amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we kind of had the mindset, I guess, over the past 3 years of like, getting deals, whether they were expensive or not. And, just to kind of kind of help feed the machine a little bit. And there was deals that we took that we didn't have the best payout on, just whether it's high end like referral, like high or home light, something like that.
Yeah, high
Sure.
referral fees.
Yeah, so that kind of stuff where cost of sales just more expensive. But we kind of had to do it just to help feed the machine and keep it going. And then this year's been a little bit more of a different focus where transaction volume hasn't increased a ton, but signing everything at full commissions, not having to pay those high referral fees for some of these other third parties, self-generated business and business
So a lot easier.
generated business that's, kind of bringing in stuff that, we hadn't necessarily seen before, but again, starting to see the return on investment for everything we've been doing for the past couple of years. So
But with events, that's been a huge focus for us, especially taking care of our sphere and past clients. And those things we're finally, again, starting to see a payoff on. A lot of our business so far this year has been repeat clients, but
So with the events that you guys are doing, are you trying to do the same ones each year?
Mhm.
Like you kind of set up the food drives and stuff.
Yeah.
So people are kind of anticipating
Yep.
these events. Yeah.
yeah, like this year, we are branching out and trying to do some additional ones. Like we just did the 4th of July parade in our community.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
never done the parade before. It's always been, a want to do, but, we also wanted to like be cool about it. Like, and everyone passes out candy during the parades. Like we wanted to try and be different. So we got 150 hats, like the trucker hats and a couple women's style hats, and everyone ate those hats.
Oh, I bet.
Like people were fighting their way through like bulldozing, like hat. Like I had to like limit how many we're giving out because we just started and it was like
They wanted the
hat, just pass them out left and right because
That's
everyone wanted them.
awesome.
So like next year, obviously, we know we need to quadruple
Yeah.
the hats,
Yeah.
but stuff like that. We're again a part of the community trying to do some new stuff. We did a movie event this year. It was the first one we've really done. But we rented out a movie theater and invited our VIP
VIPs,
clients,
yeah.
our past clients, roped off of a section in the middle specifically for them. But then we also opened it up to the entire community.
Mhm.
So if anyone else wanted to come in, they can come in. It was How to Train Your Dragon, the new one that just came
Oh,
out.
yeah. Yep.
And
we
the
had
cool
over
thing-
200 people in that theater.
yeah,
That's incredible.
And one of the
Wow,
cool
that's
thing
amazing.
is, it's like we also have the previews, like so we control what is on the screen.
Oh, nice.
Before the movie
sweet.
starts. So we had our commercial up there, we had our reviews up there, we had you name it.
Genius. I
It
love
was all
that.
about it. And then we did some giveaways and stuff before, like Enter to Wins, where they got like a candy box and some How to Train Your Dragon stuff and give back. But
Love it.
doing stuff like that again, just trying to get creative and more involved with the community.
It wouldn't surprise me as I listen to your guys' trajectory if you guys broke $1 billion in GCI next year.
Yeah.
Would that surprise you guys?
It wouldn't. That's one of our stretch goals, like one of our impossible goals.
I love that goal.
$1 million in GCI, which we're almost halfway there this year,
Right.
So it's definitely doable. So
I just think as the market opens up a little bit, which we know it's all going to,
yeah,
and you guys are just so consistent, it's going to compound into just fantastic results. Like when the market gets tough, a lot of agents, they kind of forget that like sometimes you can do everything that's within your control and it's still not going to produce fruit. You know what I mean? Like you can make all the calls, have all the conversations, but sometimes people just aren't ready to go yet. If you just keep reaching out to those people, keep staying in touch, the market does eventually open up and all these people end up buying or selling.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the past 3 years, the market necessarily hasn't gotten better. It's
Yeah.
it's kind of been fairly flat, and in regards to just overall volume goes.
Right.
So it's kind of it's what you're mentioning, a raising tide raises all ships.
Exactly.
So it's going to just take our business that we have already, and it's just going to compound an exponential growth after that once it does pick up.
Well, and only because you guys are staying consistent with the activities.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, so just so our listeners are going to be listening, so you're not doing DoorDash anymore. And you're not working at Bigfoot anymore.
No.
Right? Okay. Cool. So we're all in on
No,
that.
yeah,
was the season, and that season has
I
passed.
was going to order DoorDash when I'm in Auburn, so
It will not be me.
That was a quick
Got it.
season. In hindsight, like these last couple of years, they've been awful at points in time. But I know that we are going to come out so much better and continue to grow at a rate that we never would have without going through some of the stuff that we've gone through.
Yeah.
Have you learned, like, what have you learned about yourselves personally and professionally going through these couple years of trials?
I mean, there's a lot. There's been a big evolution in just overall my mindset, my physical health, my prioritization for own work and family. Religion is a big piece of it too. I was never really involved with church in any way, shape, or form. And during this process, I've gotten involved with church.
What
in
pushed
a
you to
big way.
that? I was curious about that. You and I were talking offline about God, and I was kind of sharing my journey with you.
Yeah.
What brought you? Was that back to God or to God for the first time?
Really, I'd say for the first time. I grew up in church. So the last time I went to church, I think I was 11 years old on Christmas Eve, and my family forgot me there. On Christmas Eve service.
That memory. Yeah.
Slightly traumatized.
Yeah, Christmas Eve service, and we lived like an hour away.
Oh my God.
So I like call, and I left a voicemail on the machine. I'm like, hey, I'm sure you realize by now I'm not with you.
Oops.
So that was like my last experience with church.
Okay.
Wow.
And religion, and
We had a conversation, when we very first got together about like, okay, what are your thoughts on religion? Where do we land on that? And the man believed in aliens, and that's about it. Like that's where he was at. There is no.
So how did you get to coming to church then and finding a relationship with God then?
One day we went to church. We actually went to a couple. Or trying out a couple different ones in the community, just because religion for me was always this, we were kind of chatting about it earlier, but this whole legalistic thing. And I never felt like that was a spot for me. Like knowing what I have done and what I've grown up through and just who I am, like I never felt like I would ever be welcomed in a church. Never thought it was something I'd be growing with. But sometimes
Going through some hard shit and kind of hitting rock bottom, I think is where you're like, all right, well.
Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to realize Jesus is the rock.
He's got a plan, right?
Yeah.
That's an incredible quote, actually. That's really good.
Yeah.
Is that a Williams? Did you just come up with that?
We're coining that. That's amazing.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to hit rock bottom to realize Jesus is the rock.
Yeah.
Damn, dude.
And that's ultimately just, we went in the church one day. We never left. Like
we found an incredible church.
Yeah.
That was the other piece of it. I'd been raised in an Episcopalian church as well. Like a super legalistic was not for me. Didn't again think that it was really a place that I would find myself back in the journey that I had, kind of taken over the last 10 years. And we found this church who speaks truth and grace and love and no bullshit. And that's what changed it for us, was finding a church that we felt like this is home and this is what it means to love Jesus and love others.
Yeah.
And we got more involved, and I think that's been a huge piece of us kind of getting to a better place personally and professionally as well.
Oh, it carries into everything that you do.
It
for
does.
sure.
Yeah.
For me, like I grew up in church like you. I didn't get left behind on Christmas. But my last time I was in church, I was 12 years old, right? And I still don't go to church. I don't know if I ever will go to church, just because I had a lot of bad experiences there. Like I looked around, it felt super hypocritical and judgmental to me, and didn't feel like I belong. And it felt like a box to check, like an obligation. It just didn't feel right to me. And it felt like a lot of people were there that were like damaged people, which no judgment from me, but it just seemed like, hey, weak people go to church is kind of the assumption that I made. And that was kind of exaggerated by my dad, because my dad is like a super alpha guy, and he's like, church is for pussies. You know what I mean? Like, we don't need God. Like, we call our own shots. And so that's kind of how I was like, raised by him after leaving church, and so it took me really seeing other strong men that were connected to God to realize that it's actually not weak people that are in a relationship with him. It's really, really powerful people as well.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like vulnerability. Like, it's a strength, not a weakness when it comes down to it. And I think it's kind of a similar mindset.
Well, that's, I think, a difference about the church that we found is I've never seen a church pour into and have so many strong men in leadership and really all in. And I think that that's been a huge piece of why you felt comfortable building community and feeling like it was a place for you. It's totally different than anything I've experienced before.
Yeah. It's a lot of people like push church on other people too, which is weird to me. Like that made me not want to go to church even that much more, but I just observed two people in particular, Chuck, who I think you've met Chuck on our team. He's been a church guy for his whole life, and he never pushed on me. I just observed the way that he utilized it in his life and how it kind of anchored him. And then Garrett White was like a really big one because Garrett just found Christianity like 2 years ago. You know what I mean? And then he created like Bible stacking, which I love. Like that's my favorite thing to do every day.
Yeah.
But it was seeing those two guys,
It's interesting. So like I just did a stack the other day about the legalist religion, right? Which is a lot of religion, a lot of churches will use shame, guilt, judgment as initiation for change, right? Like behavior change. And that's how I grew up, was like, oh, you're shamed into a behavior change or you're judged into a behavior change, where when we've kind of relearned that actually it's quite the opposite. Like empowerment is really what drives that change. And that part of that legalist religion, that shame, that guilt is all man-made.
Yeah.
Right? All of it is. Like God's like, I ain't judging you. Like I don't give a shit, right? Like, you come to me. Yeah.
Thieves,
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's been interesting to kind of have that shift in our lives too, because I was raised in a very religious situation that was every single one of my behaviors was influenced by shame or by judgment or by guilting me into different behaviors, right? And so to relearn how to have a relationship with a higher power and connecting with a divine power, it really opens up the path for me to become my divine self through that. Right?
Yeah, 1,000%. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, right believing leads to right living and versus the other way around.
Yeah.
At our coaching company and kind of like, who we really are, which is why we connect so well with you guys, we really focus on body being balanced business. Like, how do we have all four of these domains and not just be what we call a one-dimensional douchebag, where you're like really good at business, but your marriage is on the brink of divorce, your kids, don't even know who you are. You haven't had vacation in 3 years, you're fat as hell and embarrassed by what you see in the mirror. So when you guys look at those four domains, how do you manage to have each one kind of advancing and making progress? Because a lot of people think they can only push in one, but you guys have also found a way to push in all four.
Yeah. And I think you have to, and it's to a certain respect. Like, I mean, to your point, there's certain people that are super successful in their business, but their personal life sucks, and I would not want to be them. And so you kind of see this image of like who they are on like social media or like within their business and
micro celebrities.
What they put out there, and then you kind of learn a little bit more about them, and they suck. Like and if you don't have really all four of those, like, I mean, what's the point?
Well, I think it takes getting really, really honest with yourself and getting to a point where you can be honest with yourself. And this is all within my control. And there's not a lot that we've had a lot of control over the last 3 years, but body, like those things are within your control. And it takes a lot of reflection and I think self-honesty to get to a point where you realize, no, this is what I can control. And if I focus and control these things, it's going to filter out into the rest of my life, into my business and my kids and community.
Life becomes, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that's what people avoid, right? Because like really like the foundational fact maps, right? In the Warrior app and but before the Wartime CEO Mastermind, right? Like really sitting down and holding up a mirror to every domain in your life and being like, is it where I want it to be?
Right.
And we've on this podcast, we've talked people kind of through like the questions to ask, like what am I really how am I really showing up in this area? Am I really okay with how things are, right? And it's like you guys kind of did that without the framework when you blew up your lives.
Yeah.
Because you're like, no, I'm out of alignment in all these areas. Fuck all this. Let's
Yeah.
go this way, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it kind of started when we first did 75 hard for the first time. Just because there was just so much out of our control. We're like, all right, well, we're focusing so much on business. We're not really doing anything for ourselves at the moment or necessarily family and that kind of stuff. So we did 75 hard the first time. And I mean, just the structure of that, it's not necessarily, everyone thinks 75 hard, like this diet, right? You're going to lose 100 pounds when you do 75 hard, but it's so much more than that. I mean, that's an outcome, but there's also so many other different outcomes that come with that. We just strictly because of the discipline that shows up in your business and in your personal life and your family life. When you stick to that, schedule and you do the things that you don't want to do, it also helps you evolve and train your mind. So that way you can kind of push through other stuff that comes up in your life that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
I watched my son do 75 hard. He just finished it like about a month ago. And it definitely seemed like a game of consistency. You know what I mean? Like, can you do the boring shit you don't want to do every single day?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's a lot of lessons to be learned there.
For sure.
Well, and keeping the promises that you make to yourself, that's where you build that personal integrity that, again, is going to carry through to all these other places. And so, like Cory said, I mean, 75 hard, yes, you're probably going to lose some weight and build some muscle and come out a little bit more fit. But the mindset shift was the biggest thing that I needed, especially in that place that we were in.
And to be able, like you said, to have something that you're controlling, right? Like we just talked about how to manufacture momentum in a couple episodes ago. And it was like, it's that being able to stack wins that you control.
Yes.
Like, little bitty things at first is what kind of starts that engine up of that momentum, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'd love to have you guys back on in a year just to update people on where you're at. Because I feel like it's going to be dynamic and amazing progress, and it's going to inspire even more people. But the thing I kind of want to just wrap up and end with, like as we go through these seasons of chaos, I think it's important we remember like this is a chapter in the book. It's not the entirety of it. And that allows you to compartmentalize what's happening in your life. Is there any thought that you've had towards that at all, Cory or Jessica?
I mean, I think just the biggest piece of being, like you said, it's a chapter. And the hardest thing I think for a lot of people, even myself, is you don't ever feel like that chapter is going to end, and you just kind of get stuck with it. You're just turning page after page after page. Like, and you're like, if you don't enjoy reading, you're like looking forward to the chapter, but some chapters are 90% of the book in some scenarios. And unfortunately, that's the way that it works, and you have to, control what you can control during it, stick with the consistency, and then, we'll move on to the next chapter after that. But the good chapters will come to an end too, and I think that's the biggest thing. Everyone thinks times are good and times are great, but that too shall pass. And there's going to be difficult times that come up when you don't expect it.
The Gap and the Gain was a huge book for me to read, especially as we went through this, and even to continuously remind myself of, it feels so shitty sometimes, and it feels like you said, that chapter is never going to end. But looking back at how far we've come in 3 years, are we where we want to be? Absolutely not. And thank God, because we've got some serious growth to do, and we're both on the same page with that. But having the mindset of the gap and the gain, and looking at how far you've come and what you're building, and not just for yourself, but other people, that's what keeps us going.
I think a big piece too is stop comparing yourself to other people. There's so many people that look out to someone else and like, well, so-and-so did this and they were 20 years old, or trying to measure themselves against other people. They've had a totally different path, a totally different journey, totally different circumstances. And when you can only control what you can control, you measure yourself and you measure backwards. And that's the biggest thing that you have to stick with.
Awesome. So people that are looking for a real estate agent, what areas do you guys cover?
South King, North Pierce for the most part. We'll branch out a little bit more after that. If it's a referral, obviously we want to make sure that our friends and family and past clients are taken care of. But South King, basically Seattle, Bellevue, South, and then Tacoma, Graham, Puyallup, North for the most part. It's our main hub.
Awesome. I'm hugely proud of both of you guys. I love both of you so much. It's an honor to be friends with you guys and to watch your journey and to get through this. It's just been awesome to watch, and just, keeping tabs on from a distance and checking in on you guys. So I'm really, really proud of you guys, and looking forward to seeing where you're at in a year from now.
Thanks. Appreciate it. I know we wouldn't be where we're at without you guys. So I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate
It's super
that.
inspiring. Yeah. Super inspiring.
All right. We will see you guys next week.
Let's go.
Thank you, guys. That's a wrap on today's episode of Growth Journals.
If you found value in this conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with a fellow entrepreneur.
For more insights, tools, and resources, visit us at thewarrioragent.com.
Keep pushing forward, keep leading with purpose, and we'll see you next time.